Good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the garage for another Sunday live stream with me, Andy the Gabby Cabby. Good to see everybody once again. Hope you're doing all right. I was getting a little bit worried about my moderator, Bloodnose, in the background. He's just giving me two thumbs up, waving his hands around. You won't see it, but I can. I literally just sent him an email saying, "Are you okay?" Because it's usually him that gets here before I do, but we're all in the house, so all good. Anyway, quick few hellos, and we'll get on with what we're doing. Clarky, hello. Factual Breakdown, good to see you, my friend, and I hope you're all right. I know you don't get along here as regularly as you'd like to. Gary Thornbury, Chris Card, Blue Angel, Ian. Is that Ian Williamson? Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Ryan, my friend, good to see you. Julie Baldwin, hope you're well this evening, Julie. Tony Tasker, Jean-Marc from France, Cheryl, Anthony P, Clown World, another one of my friends, good to see you. John Harris, WTF, I love that screen name, I really do. Pear Cider tonight. I'll tell you what, I mean, I've got this bloody empty beer can here, which I've got to throw out, but somebody gave me some, what was it, apple and blackcurrant cider. It was by Thatcher's, and it was bloody delicious. I drank 4 cans of it the other day. Yeah, and it goes down like fruit juice. That's the trouble with stuff like that, isn't it? Jason, Classics and Sports Cars Vlog Channel. Evening, Andy, from Dave Bryan. Good to see you. Is that Rigbert Stein? Good evening, Andy. Dan Gruner, evening. Great to see you again, Andy. You too. Thank you very much. Mark Clay. And Rafi, and my tech guy, and another moderator that works in the background. So, yes, great to see all the regulars in the house. Wonderful. Just a couple of announcements. Well, one actually, and then I want to crack on with some bits. Now, this 81,106 subscribers, and in the last 28 days, the channel's grown by 2,279 subscribers. So we're getting there. About another, 19,000 to go. And I might be eligible for one of them silver YouTube plaque thingamybobs that everybody goes on about. I think Jeff Buys Cars has got one of those. At least I've seen a picture. So wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support. We are getting close to 100,000, John Mark says. Absolutely. Right. I've got a question. Now, before I ever come into the live stream, I always have a quick look before we go live to try and get the general feel of what people are talking about. And there were several comments about London and what happened over the weekend. London is doomed. London is finished. London is no more. Well, I put a video out yesterday about this. Being a responsible YouTuber, riding the trends, as it were, I've got to do it. And this was the thumbnail, London has fallen. And that video went absolutely nuts. I reckon it'll be on 100,000 views by tomorrow, just that one video alone. That doesn't happen to my channel very regularly. And it's an indicator to me how important that subject is, because it's also an indication of what's happening over the rest of the country as well, and how we're doing. Now, the question I want to ask is, did you expect Sadiq Khan to win the London election? Give me a 1 for yes or 2 for no. I see Anthony P has put fixed. Not the only one I've seen does that, has said that. So do you think, were you expecting him to win? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Julie saying 3. Well, there's a bit of a mixed bag of 1s and 2s in there. Yes, Lord Jim Dandy. Sad news today. Bernard Hill has passed away. Yosser, and obviously He played Captain Smith in the Titanic film, didn't he? Wow, Factual Breakdown, thank you very much for the $50 super chat. It will be $100 when you arrive at 100,000. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, 100,000 subscribers, not $100,000. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But thanks. I really appreciate that. Susan Hall was the wrong candidate. Yeah, I mean, I've got some videos coming out tomorrow about voting, about how I feel about, what the weekend was. Ian Williamson, foregone conclusion with the demographic. That's another factor. That's something else that's come into it. But what really concerned me is two things. Number one is how this country thinks and feels about our elected representatives. What choices do we actually have? Because for many, we're led to believe that we only have a choice of Conservative or Labour. And that is how our entire system is set up. In fact, that is what the news will tell you. That, those are the only choices we do have. And then you have the quality of the candidates. Somebody mentioned Susan Hall wasn't much cop. And then you have other people like Howard Cox. Howard Cox was all right. But the problem is the party he represents and the way the system works, he never really had an opportunity or a chance to get in, did he? It's all rigged in turn for the main two. The other factor that concerns me as well is the turnout. How many people actually bother to come out and vote? Now, this is where the first past the post system seems to be working in favour of the establishment the whole time. Now, I dug this out. Turnout was 40.5% in the mayoral election, according to London Elects, down from 42.2% in 2021 and 45.3% in 2016. So you can see a steady decline over 3 elections. Across the capital, figures trended lower in inner London, where Khan's support is more strongly concentrated, and more higher in outer London, where Hall can expect to do better. But overall, the turnout was crap. I had a thing on X earlier where I said to somebody, Anthony P., low turnout in London explains how Khan won. Yes, totally. Now, I had this conversation with someone on X earlier where they actually turned around and said it was a decent turnout. It wasn't a decent turnout at all, was it? It wasn't a decent turnout at all. 40% out of a population of, well, what's the population of London now? It's about 6 million, isn't it? Something like that. 6 million. It could be a little bit more. So 40%. Nobody came out. You imagine if 30% of that 60% that was missing came out. What difference would it make? What difference would it make? And it's the same nationally as well, isn't it? It's a case of if nobody comes out to vote, the system is going to still be the way it is, and the people that have got him forevermore are going to be there. Kevin, thank you for this. I appreciate it. I think it's nearer 8 million. Kevin Froud, yeah. The Jean-Marc, another one that's corrected me. No, 8 million. Yes, when I looked at the voting figures several days ago from, I think, 2016, I think it was about 6.2 or something like that. So naturally, it's going to go up over the years. Now, this pulls into a general election, doesn't it? If this trend carries on. Have a look at this. I'll just pull up this news article. Now, this is from the Express, and it talks about the fact that Labour have they're in a position where they're going to end up being the largest party in Westminster. Hello, Paz. Good to see you, my friend. Hope everyone's having a tweeting weekend, folks. Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's made me smile. I do, of course, know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah, bugger. He's made me lose my train of thought there. Yeah, but, this article is talking about the fact that Labour may be in for being the largest party in Westminster at the next election, but falling short of a majority. Now, the particular piece I want to highlight here is this. Latest figures from the local elections have revealed that while Labour is on course to be the largest party, it's set to fall short of gaining an overall majority at the next general election. Provisional national share estimate have revealed that Tories are on just 26% of the vote, a 19-point drop compared with the 2019 general election. Now, if they're not in a position where they are the largest party, therefore they cannot form a majority government, and you have all the pitfalls to do with a hung parliament. Now, cast your eye and memory back to 2010 when we had a hung parliament. We had Cameron and Clegg. We could see what happened there. They stood there and they said, oh, this is what the British people wanted. This is what they wanted us to do. Hello? No, we were all pissed off and disenchanted. And we ended up with that shower of shite for, well, years. We're coming to the end of the consequences of those actions now. Now, if it's a hung parliament, that means that yet again, the electorate, or a great number of the electorate, aren't confident enough in the system to come out and vote for somebody. And therefore, we end up with this hung parliament yet again and stuck in the same system yet again. This is where people have to look. This is where people have to think, right, I need to get down there and I need to have my say. People are very big on reform. They're saying, we're going to vote reform, let's get them in. But if you have a large percentage of the electorate that don't come out and vote, people like reform are never going to have a chance. The other alternative, of course, is I do not consent. Now, that is a very powerful message. Not none of the above, not I'm pissed off with all of them. I do not consent is something that can go down on the voting slip. And if millions of people all across the country did that, imagine how powerful it would be. More videos coming out tomorrow on that. Gobster talks about things. Good evening, everybody. Hello to you, my friend. Good to see you in the chat. Glad to see your channel's doing well. First talked about by Paz, and I've given him a plug as well. Gobster talks about things, does exactly the same thing we do, just talks about things. So go and have a look. Well, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button because that helps spread the chat around everywhere. I appreciate it. If you're new here, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, or if you are already, make sure you still are, because that helps. And obviously share this on your social media channels, because when I get on my high horse about things, I want as many people as possible to know about it. Well, one of the failures in government we have is what's going on across the channel. Rwanda. Are they going to go? Are they going to stay? Are they going to get stopped by the lefty lawyers before they even get on the plane and leave the country? Loads and loads of things. It's, yeah, it's a disaster. It's never going to happen. I don't care whether it's in law or not. It's a policy that's not got any legs, or not got any wings, actually, if we're talking about planes. Never going to happen. There's a video coming out tomorrow about one of the migrants, or individuals, should we say, who's actually been sent to Rwanda. You remember this test case where they were given 3,000 quid of our money and said, ta-ta, on the plane, off you go. Well, something has happened, and I'll leave the surprise for tomorrow. Del Boy Wills, Rwanda is a red herring. I completely agree with you. And I think it's a complete and utter balls up as well. I mean, while all this is going on, you know, I pull this up from Reuters so you can see it. And it's happening in the background still. More migrant dinghies cross channel to England despite the Rwanda threat. So they're still coming. It's a joke. Dozens of people in 2 rubber dinghies reached the southern coast of England on Saturday, the latest among thousands of asylum-seeking migrants to make the risky sea crossing from France this year, bobbing on the waves of the English Channel on a clear morning. You can see it there. See the picture on the video. It's overpacked. French naval vessels following them until they reach English waters. Those French naval vessels should be scooping them out of the water and going back to France with them. And you can see how packed in they are there as well. Largely male passengers, some of whom were in orange life jackets and waving, were taken aboard a British Border Force vessel off Dover. Now, that is the point right there, isn't it? Bang on right there. They're being watched by the French going to the halfway point across the channel. They're then getting loaded up onto the Border Force cutter and brought in the rest of the way. And the RNLI are scooting around there somewhere too. No, doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me at all. It's a sham and it's got to stop. Right, let's have a look. The arrivals illustrate the difficulty British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak faces on his pledge to tackle illegal migration and stop the boats ahead of a national election expected later this year. More than 8,000 people have arrived so far this year on small boats, many fleeing war or famine and travelling for it. Look, they're saying 8,000. Now, I've seen varying figures on that amount, but 8,000, if it is 8,000, it's too much, too many. And they're fleeing war, they're fleeing where are these people coming from? And where are the women and children? I've had this conversation before. If there was problems here in this country, which might well be around the corner, I would certainly not be getting on a boat and leaving my wife and my kids behind. It'd be them going on the boat, and I'd damn well stay and fight. What is there to understand about that? It just seems like everybody's fooled by and rolled over by this whole entire thing. Hello, Pete. Good to see you. What's all? Screw Crime is in the house as well. Good to see you all. Ryan, I see you're pleased to see him. Wonderful stuff. Okay, other thing as well. Does anybody live in or around Cornwall? Cornwall. Reason I say that, it'll become clear in a minute. Somebody's just said Vietnam is the safest country in the Far East. Safer than here. I've always wanted to go to Vietnam because I'm very much into my military history, my war history and everything else. The reason I say Cornwall, I think it was Cornwall actually, a few years ago, there was a bit of an issue where the locals were getting annoyed with people buying up all the property and using them as second homes. And they went as far as scrawling graffiti on the side of the wall, go home, we don't want you here, kind of thing. Well, we have a situation in my kind of patch, my area, where there are a lot of people who have second homes, like people who are from London and other places. They buy a home down here and they can commute in between the two. And what the local council have done is they've decided to up the council tax bills. And I wonder if it will happen in other places too. Council tax bills double for Kent's second homeowners, with more than 7,500 such properties in Thanet. The move is set to bolster the coffers of cash-strapped local authorities. So anyone with a second home basically is going to get done. I love that thing. I mean, you've got this big argument at the moment with council tax, whether we should be paying it or not, or whether we go to them, send us an invoice, please, or we just ignore them totally. But how they think that, it's going to boost the coffers. If you charge more council tax, people aren't going to be able to afford to pay it, those that are willing to, and won't. And those that won't anyway. So why is it boosting any coffers whatsoever? It's ridiculous. Now this goes on to say council tax bills are set to double for Kent's second homeowners. New rules set to be introduced by every council in Kent means those enjoying the luxury of owning a second residence will soon have to pay a premium. A council tax bill for £2,302 a month landed on a doormat of a house in Broadstairs. A month. I'd say that was a year personally. That must be a typo. It's not until weeks later it's picked up by the homeowners who have travelled down from London for a weekend break on the Kent coast. That's an example right there of what I've said. The house is one of two they own. Their main residence in the capital and sits empty for the majority of the year, although they pay their council tax like everyone else. But soon they'll be forced to fork out a heftier price for the privilege, 4,600 in this hypothetical case for a Band D property. So what they're doing, they're effectively screwing second homeowners and saying, you've got to pay for the privilege. But one of the things in my area, I mean, I lived in this area my whole life, right through I was born in the 70s, and this area really had its major heyday, I suppose, in the 60s, parts of the 70s, and maybe before that. And I remember growing up in the 80s, and it was just about starting to go downhill. I mean, you did have the kind of things like the Only Fools and Horses, Jolly Boys Outing, which was filmed down here, and all that sort of thing. And it was great. I do remember it being great. There were shops in the high streets. There was jobs. There was, it was wonderful. And then in the 90s, it just sunk. It sunk so fast and people left. And then at the end of that, what started to happen, we had the fast rail link put in, and people started moving down here from London, and they bought money and opened businesses, and that decline was suddenly reversed, and people started coming again. I'm not saying the influx of Londoners had everything to do with it, but money was here once again, trade was here once again, and if you push the council tax up, then that might incline people to sod off elsewhere. Is that what's going to happen? The unfortunate byproduct of all this, though, is that the house prices are through the roof. I rent my place, the house I live in. It's not mine. I rent it. And, a house, an equivalent house of this size for what I need for my family and what I do, I wouldn't be able to get. And that's the progress of the last several years, but it's give and take, isn't it? Touch and go. I don't know how you find things in your area with all of this. You're all in very different parts of the world, different parts of the country, and I know some of you, like the States, for example, will have a different system entirely. Jean-Marc, oh my God, you don't own your house, Andy. Can't you get a mortgage? Well, years ago, before I mean, you shouldn't divulge too much of your personal information online because you never know who might be watching. But years ago, before I met my wife and had my kids and everything, I had a flat which I bought, first time buyer, and I lost it during the recession, should we say. Lost my job, lost the plot, and everything went to hell. And that put quite a big problem on my credit rating, should we say. And we got to years later, now I need a house, and things are set up the way they are, and we're quite comfortable where we are, and it's not too bad. I'd love to own my own home, Jean-Marc, and if I could, I would. But I made both my kids a promise that they'd grow up in this house. One of them's 20 years old, so I think I've done it there, and I've got one to go. But we'll see what happens. You never know what the future brings, do you? Anthony P. and Andy, did you ever think you would buy a house when married? Well, in an ideal world, yes. I mean, later on down the line, you can think about uh, the possibility of it. But it's the next generation that's going to have problems as well, isn't it? You have all these harebrained schemes where they're trying to get you into rabbit hutches in, these quickly built things. When I say a rabbit hutch, I mean a bit of wood with a brick skin wrapped round it and charge you 200 grand for the privilege. Buy now, would pay later, all sorts of weird schemes. But I'm very old fashioned. Save a big deposit, put it down on the place and get a mortgage. Problem is, it's the size of the deposits. You've got to probably on this place 50,000 quid to make the mortgage payments affordable. And there's not a lot of people out there that could do that, is there? Not a lot of people. And, back in the Labour days in the 90s and early 2000s, we had 100% mortgages and all that sort of thing, didn't we? So we'll see what happens. Things change, don't they, over time? Right. One of the things that really gets me, we've looked at Wales, we've looked at a couple of other places to do with speed limits, an enforced nationwide speed limit and all this sort of thing. Well, if you've got a speed limit on a road, I would think it would apply to everybody, wouldn't you? I would think that, every user on the road should be obliged to go at a certain speed. I mean, in Wales, I've seen cars doing 20 miles an hour and people on cycles overtaking them. It's mad. I mean, have a look at this. There was a nasty accident which involved, I think, a fatality. Let's pull this up. Yeah, cyclist escapes prosecution after fatal collision with pensioner. So, obviously, knocked the pensioner off, over on their bike. A speeding cyclist involved could not be prosecuted because speed limits do not apply to bicycles. That's a technicality, isn't it? Brian Fitzgerald, a director at Credit Suisse, was in a fast group of cyclists doing timed laps of Regent's Park in London when Hilda Griffiths crossed the road they were on to try to reach a pedestrian island. Despite a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which obviously you'll find in most of London, Mr. Fitzgerald, a member of the Muswell Hill Peloton Cycling Club, told a coroner they were travelling at up to 29 miles an hour in aerodynamic paceline formation. What the hell's that? To maximise momentum when he struck the retired nursery teacher walking her dog. He said he had zero reaction time, adding how cyclists are not required to obey 20-mile-an-hour signs because the legal speed limit doesn't apply to cyclists, the same as motorists. Police concluded there was insufficient evidence for a real prospect of a conviction, and the case closed with no further action. So, in other words, a cyclist, obviously a racing bike by the sound of it, flying along at near 30 miles an hour, smacks into somebody and, ends them, and they're not prosecuted. Now, that person on that cycle has got to, bikes go on pavements and knock people down, and they just laugh and cycle off. Yeah, I mean, that person has got to live with the guilt of what's happened for the rest of their life. But are they criminally culpable? Should they have been prosecuted? We're living in a world, particularly with places like London, where you've got cycle lanes and all this sort of thing everywhere, where they're trying to encourage the use of them and trying to encourage people out of their cars. And maybe it's come to a point where all this needs addressing. Like the law, the limits should be applied equally. And if there's a fatal road traffic accident as a result, then other things should have happened. I mean, you've got e-scooters and all sorts of stuff flying along, which cause this issue. So it's bad. Bikes go through red lights and not people crossing on the zebra crossing. I'll tell you what, my dad, as I said, he's ex-police, old school police. And in them days, I don't know if anybody remembers the old-fashioned truncheons the bobbies used to have. Absolutely massive. And they had a big lot. Hi, Simon Sideways. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Yeah, the bobbies had a really long pocket on one side of the trousers, which I used to wear as a uniform. And my dad, he used to keep his truncheon in that pocket, which is what was meant, and also used to keep a long spanner as well. And when he was out on patrol as a police constable, if ever he saw anybody riding their bike on the pavement, back in them days, it was a thing. Uh, he would stop the cyclist and give them a warning and say, if I catch you actually riding your cycle on this path again, I'm going to take your front wheel, and 24 hours afterwards, you can collect it from lost and found. It was a complete inconvenience, but it worked. You know, crime prevention, that's something that's sorely missed these days. If a police officer tried something like that now, they'd probably get sacked, arrested, and charged with a hate crime or something like that. It's ridiculous. I see Blood, my moderator, has put the link to Simon Sideways' channel in there. If anybody hasn't, please go ahead and check him out. Obviously, my mate Paz as well. Clown World YT, Screw Crime, Ryan Yard, all my friends on YouTube that are in the house tonight. I appreciate seeing all of you there and all the support you give as well. It's very much appreciated. Yeah, I mean, you know, YouTube, it can be a funny fish. You can either make enemies or you can make friends, or, you know, you keep yourself to yourself and just get on by. And you get very much a horde mentality with YouTube as well, where people can behave in certain ways and try and instill narratives about people, which may or may not necessarily be true, and cause a right old ding-dong. Some channels like mine just want to talk about facts and what's going on in everyday lives. Other channels want to turn it into an episode of EastEnders. All the usual suspects. You're not wrong there, Kevin. An episode of EastEnders. And, you know, you don't tune in for drama. You don't tune in for petty squabbling. It's, you know, crap, really. Get on here, do your stuff, get on with people, and everybody's happy. But a lot of people don't tend to see that and drag others into problems which weren't really anything to do with them in the first place. But that's enough of that. Thank you very much, everybody. So far, we're 32 minutes in. Please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and make sure you still are if you have been for a while, because that algorithm does some silly things sometimes. Also, hit the like button because that helps it share, and share everything on social media as well if you're across any of those. Right, at this point, I usually like to go through your comments, and Blood's been doing his job and seen a load in there, so we'll go through them. I see he kicked somebody out earlier. There was a chap called Lee who said, looked like, I think he meant I was having a nervous breakdown, as in me or something. I'm not quite sure what that is, but before I could draw breath and react, our friend Lee got booted off. So I don't know what that was. 105 likes. Brilliant. Well done. Let's see if we can get another 100 before we go. Mind you, we'd need 200 people watching, wouldn't we? Clarky, it's time the majority in this country respectfully put the minority in its place. Yeah, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the video, we have got to reach out to these people that aren't coming out and having their say. We've got, if you want your country back to normal, if you want your country rescued or some semblance of what it was, then get out, get down there, have your voice heard. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. London's lost. The damage is worse than the Blitz. Chris, I saw your comment earlier when I logged on, and I completely agree with your sentiment. It doesn't look good at the moment. Jean-Marc, you can put the plaque in your taxi. That's true. I could, couldn't I? All the they'll go, who's that? You know, I had a funny thing the other day. I was driving in town, and I was sat at some traffic lights. I told my old man about my old man earlier. One of the things that he does, and I've picked up, I'm always looking everywhere. I might be looking at you, but I'm also looking at my peripheral as well and what's behind me. You know, being completely aware of my surroundings. You've got to in this day and age. Anyway, I was at the traffic lights, right? And out of my peripheral, I saw this guy in this looked like a big camper van kind of thing, going absolutely mad, waving at me. I thought, what the hell? So I wind down the window and I say, "You all right, mate?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You're Andy, aren't you?" "Yeah." He said, "I watch you on YouTube. I've been watching you for years. I've never been rumbled at a set of traffic lights yet. It's great, absolutely great." And the guy emailed me later in the day. So a few local people, tune in as well. And a couple of people I didn't even realize watch me. Watch me. It's cool. Okay. Jean Marc. We are supervised to see on a current affairs program in France about migrant hotels in older people's homes, etc. What are you saying? Are you saying that there's a current affairs program that has shown you that migrants are being put up in old people's homes? Is that what you're saying? I wasn't quite sure what you were getting at there, but I think I did. Stop postal votes. You know what, Jim? Postal votes, the original idea of them, where it was a case of people that couldn't get out wanting to exercise their right to vote. Yeah, okay, fine. But when it went to, anybody and everybody could have a postal vote, it just opens it to abuse. I think the whole system needs stopping and looking at once again. Totally agree with you. Bleach Demon, Bradford's new elected representative is coming for Starmer. Have you seen his winning speech? I know about the elected representative, but I haven't seen the speech yet. I will have a look at that when we're finished. It was a bit of a worry, that whole thing, wasn't it? Cheryl, we got no chance of getting rid of him. Nobody wants to vote, so they didn't. They could have done postal vote, but nobody cares. No more UK, going down big time. I had a chat with my son earlier, and I said, get your education, grow up, and go to pastures new. The country isn't what it was. I don't think. And this generation of kids that are coming through now, I really worry about their futures. Paranormal Channel X, don't worry, MI5 probably knows everything that's going on by now. A few won by using another country's. Yeah, you're not wrong there. Not wrong there. Anthony P, I live near Essex. I live in Essex, near where that boy got stabbed, so I can vote for Mayor of London, yet I have to do what he says. I still do vote in local elections. Everybody has to. I know people don't want to. I know people think, what's the point? But you've got to exercise that right. Hi, Inspector C. Good to see you in the chat, and I hope everything's all right with you. Paranormal X, I didn't vote. I think they just have a meeting and decide who can make the most money offers. Poorest in the country. What country this is anymore, I'm not sure, to be honest, especially London. That is disenchantment right there. That statement feels disenchantment all across. And that's the problem we've got. We've been beaten down, and we've got to start getting a bit of fight back. I do like a bit of fight. John Harris, what you will see a lot of people going over to the far right in Europe. Yeah, I mean, that term far right. Hi, Mum. Good to see you in the chat. Thanks for cutting me off earlier, by the way. She does this thing, right? If she can't talk, it's like, oh, hi, Andrew. Can't talk at the moment. Yeah, see you later. Nah, my mum. Beep. And she never called me back. But she'll probably say sorry in a minute. She's probably out of her girlies or something like that. We've got to vote, haven't we? We've got to vote. We've got to do something. Tony Tasker, Cameron and Clegg, the two C's that we're not on about in their surname. Yes, there's a thing about the letter C going on today. I could tell you, but it's a bit rude. That come from my son. Your mum calls you Grumps? ? Oh, God, not that chestnut again. Yeah, when I was a kid, I had rather a grumpy face. It's the kind I have when people piss me off too. But my parents, there you go. Sorry. Well, don't phone me back after this. I'll give you a call in the morning. Well, I might call you. Or I could hang up on you. Yeah, she called me Grumps. Both my parents did, my mum and my dad, because of my face. My dad probably stopped calling me Grumps about 20 years ago. My mum still does. And she's got a very embarrassing variation of that name as well. I have to tell her off when she uses it. Big Brother, hi Andy. I find it very hard to have any sympathy for London voters, having calm for another 4 years when 60% of voters there couldn't be bothered. Big Brother, look at my video tomorrow that comes out and we have a good old chat about that. I'm totally with you there. Julie Baldwin, Reform got 2 council seats plus a seat in the London Assembly. He said he's going to hold Khan to account. Andy the Gabby Cabby. Yes, there was 2 council seats. Yes, there was a seat in the local assembly. And I hope that they do well, but they didn't do as well as they probably could with regard to getting anybody in the door. We need tangible difference. We need people to really believe that something different can happen in this country. And they've got to get out the door and they've got to vote for it. Otherwise, first past the post is going to screw us royally all the time. Hey up, Andy. Hello, Mark's Adventures. Good to see you. Stuart, Andy the Gabby Cabby, these migrant boats coming in, how many of them are... this is the point, isn't it? This is the point. We don't know. We don't know who they are, how many there are, where they've come from, and exactly what their intentions are when they get here. And until we can determine that, the whole thing needs stopping. The whole thing needs stopping, and we need to have a good sort out. Jean-Marc, we have Brexit refugees coming in the other direction to France. What, from here? You've got a lot of Remainers and a lot of people on that side of politics that didn't want to leave. Well, they're leaving us and coming over to you by the sound of it. Gobster talks about things. None of what they are doing will make a blind bit of difference. We need it. I've heard this said. I've heard this said. It's like pulling the drawbridge up and sorting everything out. At the end of the day, we've probably got the best kind of border you could have. 20 odd miles of water in between us and the nearest country. Surely that's defendable. And then when you talk about millions in fact, billions of pounds being given to other countries in military resources and everything else, we're left wide open. God help us. God help us is all I'll say. But very, very spot on comment there. John Harris, why is it when somebody drowns, they watch the smugglers? They catch the smugglers the next day, but then they can't stop it on normal days. Yeah, I want to make a big thing of it. I totally get where you're coming from there. It's like making a point, isn't it? May the 8th, then the end of World War II this week, anniversary. Are you doing anything in England? We always remember them, on the dates. I went for breakfast with my son earlier. I just want to show you something. I forgot all about it. There's a little video. Love it, Mark. Brilliant. Yeah, local war memorial. I always go and have a look. And my family name's on that. That panel is for World War One. Local men that lost their lives during that conflict, and a panel on the other side as well. There's World War Two, and there's loads of the little poppy crosses and a couple of other things around the base of it, because obviously we had Anzac Day not so long ago, didn't we? As well, so we must always remember them. Screw crime. It's rather telling how no one is fleeing actual war-torn places like Gaza by sea, isn't it? Not a dinghy into. Yeah. I said that earlier. If God forbid anything like that happened here, it'd be my wife and kids on the boat. Wouldn't be me. So what's going on? Bar Brady, World War II has not finished. It's just changed its arena. I've started to think similar lately. Something's not quite right somewhere. Rosemary, I live in Birmingham. Even the native Asians are fed up and complain about the migrants. Now that's saying something. It is, isn't it? My great grandmother lived in Bloxwich, and my mum was born in Warsaw, and I've got great aunt and uncle and cousins still in that area. So yeah, I've not been to Birmingham or the surrounds for a long, long time actually, but do have family up there. Spiderlog, if council tax increases, expect MPs will find a way to claim it. You're damn right they will. Every time. Every time. Red flag. The greatest achievement of the elites is to convince some parts of the working class to blame the others for their deprivation. Yeah, never their fault, is it? Never their fault. Yeah, got it. Credit crunch. Anyone remember that little delight? Oh, yes, Kevin. Certainly do. Certainly do. Imagine owning your own place and not being on a fixed rate where your mortgage is concerned. Yeah, I mean, back in the day when I had a mortgage, excuse me, it was quite easy to get a fixed rate mortgage for an amount of time, 5 years or whatever it was. But I know the banks get very itchy feet these days, don't they, when it comes to fixed rates. Rigbert Stein, perhaps cyclists should be made to pay road tax and obey the road traffic laws. I think at a minimum, I mean, there's a channel which I follow who's a merchant mariner, retro on his bikes. He's very much into cycling and has done a few videos on it. Now, he might be able to comment on this. I very much believe that I think speed limit should be enforced by everybody. Now, what happened in the news article that I did, it's an unfortunate incident. Obviously, it cost someone their life. But insurance springs to my mind. Should everybody, including cyclists, have adequate insurance cover? You hear talk about road tax and number plates and everything else, but what happens when they're involved in something? Nobody's covered. John Harris, does anybody remember the vans the police used to have, and they used to give you a physical warning in the back of the van? I remember the vans, John. We used to have one down on Margate Seafront station down there. I used to see my old man in it sometimes. You would get a physical warning. Not that I ever had one. I did actually get searched by the police one night, years and years and years ago, but that's a different story. I'll save that one for another time. Collie Dog, what happened to the cycling tests we had at junior school in the 60s? Are you referring to the cycling proficiency tests? I had that at my school as well. They had something at my son's school recently where I think it was over 2 sessions where they'd have a ride around the playground on their bikes and then they'd take them out onto the main road on a part of the estate there. And, let's make sure we segregate those who cycle for pleasure versus those who use it for transport. Very different animals. You're right, Laura. You're absolutely right. I mean, one of the mad things that they were planning on doing here, they were planning on building a cycle lane right down, through one of the busiest roads coming in and out of the area. And looking at the level of accidents that have been on that road already, I took one look and I thought, oh my God. And probably half a mile to the left, there's a lovely coast road, which would be far safer for cyclists, better views, fresh air, and it goes exactly to the same point that the main road goes to. So somebody's just lost the plot somewhere, I think. Khan takes his orders from C40 Cities, Chris Simmons does. Well, Khan is the joint chair of the C40 Cities group. So is he the one giving the orders, I wonder? We might have to revisit that at some point. because in light of everything that's happened over the last day or two, there's probably been a development with that. And bring back the old-fashioned coppers. They knew all the locals or the trouble. Miss Bobby's like, yeah, I agree with you. They knew everything about everyone, what time the shops open, what time they shut, what time Doris went for her milk in the morning, what time Frank went to they knew everything. And if anything was out of place, they go deal with it. And they had something called the Ways and Means Act. You get the job done by any means necessary. And, same's true of life as well. You get everything done by any means necessary. Wonderful saying. Lord Jim Dandy. David Cameron pledges $3 billion a year to Ukraine. He did a video on that earlier. I've not watched it yet, but I'm going to catch up with his stuff later. But I saw a video of David Cameron's earlier, and I thought to myself, "You're dangerous. You're dangerous." And anybody that stands there and rattles a saber like that, crazy. Bloodnose, I have seen John Kent, Cove Lord, in a very long time. Have you heard from him, Andy? No, I haven't. He emailed me months and months and months and months ago, telling me that he was still about but couldn't be on the channel as much as he used to. I did email him back, but I've not heard from him since. I have actually seen him locally at a petrol station, but again, a long, long, long time ago. So I don't know. I really don't. Soundwave. No more job centres by 2030. 95% of mine being turned into flats. And by 2028, the leases run out. Yeah, I can believe that. I'm in the local job centre where we are. It's part of a complex that's been so many different things over the years. I can well believe that. Rosemary, I and my son are both disabled. We can't get out to vote. We need postal votes. It should be for this. Yeah, that you're an example of what the postal vote should have been for. Somebody wants to vote, let them vote by that method. Not everybody. It's open to abuse then. But yes, thank you, Rosemary. Jean-Marc, it was aired in France, and it was an expose program. The journalists went to migrant hotels, and some were disused old people's homes and hotels. One was a historical hotel, the Madley Hotel. Oh, yes, I'm with you. That's more over here, isn't it? Yeah, it's happening all over the place. I went to a hotel, and I've told this story before, where I went in because I wanted to use the loo, and I was stopped at the door and effectively thrown out. That's when I found out I was the only English man in the place. I quickly realised what was going on and got out. Politics channel. Do it for me. It's a courtesy. Do it for me. Do it the country. Get the Tories out. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think they all need getting out. All of them. Screw crime. It's strange how people are tolerating a jungle mentality in a modern society, regardless of your cultural background and religious beliefs. Who in this day and age thinks it's okay to go? Yeah, it is unacceptable. You know, where we've been in our own countries, you've got us here, you've got people over there, and people over there. And we all have our own laws, our own way of doing things. And, you know, whenever I've gone and visited another country, and it's not been, well, that often really, I do my best to respect and obey the laws and customs when they're over there, when I'm over there. But you can't go to somebody else's backyard and expect them to comply to your way of doing things. It's not on. It doesn't work. Screw crime again. Howard Cox never stood a chance. Other than ULEZ, did he have anything else in his agenda? Yeah, there was ULEZ, there was crime, or the reduction of, and he was very big into the idea of, people being able to afford their own homes. And, he was an overall good bloke. There is an interview where I had with him on here, where we had a good old chat long before everything kicked off. And I agree with you. I don't think he really had a chance. And that's the way the system's set up in the favour of the establishment. It's an unfortunate truth, but one that is there. Tad, Hardly surprising Sadiq Khan got in. London is made up from a good majority of lefties. 90% of the London population is Muslim and foreign. Yeah, this was the thing people say about the demographic. I think that is a big chunk of it. And the people that never come out and voted either, that may have made a difference either way. Why are we paying for a nuclear deterrent when any old sod could easily rock up to our shores and wreak havoc? Yeah. No border security whatsoever. Rigbert Stein, the problem with these local politicians, when I was looking for who to vote for, there was nothing to find out what their policies were. That makes it hard for who to vote for. Yeah, and what it's all about. I mean, when you go to the general election and you look at the politicians that they effectively parachute into your area, I mean, the Labour politician that they want to try and put in here next time doesn't come from here. And all the policies that she's spouting will have no bearing on what she's able to do. The current Conservative incumbent of the seat here originally, I don't think was from this area, but he does live here and he has some idea of what's going on. And I'll be honest, he's never done me a bad turn, but the possibility is he could lose his seat at the next election. But see what happens. Rosemary, it's come out that Birmingham City Council couldn't access their finances. Didn't know how much money they had or spent, yet they went bankrupt, saying they owed millions. And they still expect people to pay shed loads of council tax on top. It's mad, isn't it? Chatbox load. If it's so bad where these people come from, then how come they go back there for... Yeah, somebody did, didn't they? That was very much publicised. Somebody actually went back on holiday. If they do that, they should bloody stay there. Stop them, prevent them coming back again. Where's Captain Mannering when we need him? The Home Guard had more guts than this shower we have. Respect, Andy, from Ian. Cheers, Ian. You're dead right. They're all gone now, aren't they? Dad's army lot. I think Ian Lavender was the last. Passed away not too long ago, bless him. Private Pike. Stupid boy. Tad, hardly surprising. He got in. Oh, we've had that comment. I don't know why it come up twice, but there you go. I spent a bloody fortune on a cycle lane along the A4123, the New Birmingham Road, and it's never used. The pedalistas still insist on using the road. There you go. Case in point there from Pete. And, this is where accidents will happen. Cheryl, I had an electric bike in front of my car with two hoodies on it going really fast and more than 20 miles an hour. I'm in Cardiff. Nothing done. They should have number plates. That's your opinion, Cheryl. You know, they need some kind of cover with regard to accidents or some way of finding them, particularly if we're all supposed to integrate on the same roads. 44 more likes to 200. Can we do it? Yeah, come on, folks. We got a couple of minutes. So if you haven't done so already, give the like button a smack. Love to get to 200. Ryan, did you hear any more from Martin after he suddenly got in touch? Put me on the spot there because he got in touch and said, don't say anybody that got in touch, but he got in touch with a couple of people. But yeah, I've not heard anything more from him. Just he's okay. That's all I know, and that he's still watching stuff. Yorkshire Pud, I just had to call 999. Someone in the next village posted about someone with a machete. They didn't call cops, the stupid idiots. I'm in the bloody country, so oh my God. Is that happening now? Right as we speak? That's really bad. I hope that everyone will be okay. Screw crime. David Cameron has a cheek. The guy literally left his infant daughter behind at a pub. Yeah, I remember that. Not exactly the right person to dictate national security. They go on about abolishing the House of Lords and look what happened. Pure Salvation, Andy, I think we should have more referendums about important things. What say you? I think there should be more accountability to the people. We should have more of a say. Yeah, we have a general election every 4 years, though. The trouble is we do, but then they just do what they like and make a complete Horlicks of the whole thing. Mad, isn't it? Totally mad. Anyway, that's all your comments. A few news pieces thrown at you this evening as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Appreciate it. And as always, if you can make sure that like button is hit, you subscribe to the channel, share me on your social media if you can. Got 4 videos coming out tomorrow from 8 o'clock in the morning, so get stuck in and let your mind be known with those when you see them. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Toodaloo.